Hello, good evening, and pleasant Sunday. Welcome to this corner where it's a leadership corner. This leadership is a place where we lead ourselves, leading yourself into betterment, especially in uncertain times like this. We have uncertain times where there's so much uncertainty, there's so much unpredictable. You can't predict anything. Things are changing so fast. Events are changing so fast. People are changing so fast. Economy is changing so fast, and we seem to be on a fast track where people are losing values, creativity, bliss, and what essentially makes life more meaningful, more purposeful, more engaging. And if you're not careful, you're going to lose your mind because of the fast pace. So how do we have discussions, vital discussion, to equip us significantly so that we could have the mental construction, the emotional energy, and the sound body to be able to influence things. So we find out that things are influencing us rather than we influencing. Because I'm going to be dealing with a bit of some concept and technicality so that we understand how things are when we get worried, what causes that worry, what kind of mental narrative that shift you to be worried, to have anxiety. And so because we live in a fast-paced world, it denies us our originality, because our originality is not in a place of traction. It's a place of rest. We function more in a place of rest, and that is a rest. And if you watch, I love a whole lot of gardens. If I were just planted a flower from another pot, and I watch them in their rest place, they are unrattled. They are never in a hurry. They're not anxious. But you see, they have certain naturality. There's a naturalness of rest that believe they will flourish, they will produce, they will advance. But in our own species, there's a whole lot of things challenging us. And so it keeps us in that fast moment, and it distorts us from our originality, and so move out of our naturalness. So how do I lead myself? I know we're in a place of where we lead people, but the fundamental thing about leadership is ability to lead yourself into betterment. So you can create a model, to construct a pattern, so you can create a system that you can replicate in others. If you can lead yourself into betterment, where you are fearless in your duty, when you're fearless in your purpose, when you're fearless in your impact, you see the chronological order: fearless in your duty, fearless in your purpose, which is service, and now impact means leading others. So it starts from you. You got to learn how to lead yourself, to find fulfillment, to find satisfaction, to live in a meaningful place. And so that's why this corner basically is to shape us and enrich our mental model and change narratives which will retell ourselves, so that we are not in that fast track mode. We got to pedal down. The slow factor got to come in. So the question today will be, what kind of thing do I need to know? How do I need to reconstruct my mental world? How do I need to tell myself a story? How do I need to build a robust mind in order to for it to become fluid and not rigid, and not attached to certain pleasures or defenses? So today we will ask ourselves simple question. I read a good book a lot, and it prepared me for so long time. And because of the stories I've read, whether from Joseph, how Joseph had to build a mental model and navigated all the obstacles about hate, because people will hate you, about rejection, people are going to reject you, about where you find yourself out of a comfort zone, you're going to meet that. Whether it's going to be about disappointment, people are going to disappoint you. Whether it's going to be failure in a lower life, you're going to encounter failures because of certain decisions that you have made, and those decisions cumulatively begin to form a consequence. Those consequences begin to bring outcomes. So how do I live a life that I'm not trapped or walled in limitation? First and foremost, every limitation and everything that we talked about suffer is not really suffer, it's a lack of awareness, lack of knowledge. And the good book said that man born of a woman is of a few days, full of trouble. But one thing he said, hey, my case is different, because there's something that I know that helped me navigate, that helped me to transverse, not to be attached, not to name or come with all that. I'm going to talk about a few key things like prejudices, talk about passion. I hear people say, follow your passion. Please don't ever follow your passion. It's a lack of knowledge to say you follow your passion. Passion is energy, and that's why most times when you don't have energy, you don't follow your passion. You got to follow who you are, your naturalness. I'm going to deal with that. It's identity really that you should follow, because identity is so powerful than passion. Passion is energy, and you don't always have the energy all the time, but your nature will always nurture you, which produces passion, which produces energy. So I'm going to be talking about all that around there. But how do I navigate this uncertain life? I like the scriptures. It says something, in the world you have tribulation, but be of a good cheer. I have overcome the world. And whatever is born of God, you're born of God. Yeah, we need to talk about it. You're born of God, so you are connected to God. You are not a consumer, you're a creator. You have the capacity to be able to influence and to create solutions and to create models that help you interpret everything through observation. I come to remind you, you're bigger, you're larger, you're strong. But lack of knowledge and illusion of defense and comfort denies you that capability to influence your world. And today, after this class, I hope you're about to influence every limitation that comes to you. In fact, you're going to have tea. Make tea with uncertainty. And if you don't embrace uncertainty, uncertainty will always create fears and anxiety. But when you have tea with uncertainty, uncertainty becomes your friend. So we're about to become friendly with uncertainty. And unfortunately, we live with uncertainty on a daily basis, because when you wake up in the morning, you have no clue what is going to happen. You have no clue how the truck is going to block the street. You have no clue how your boss is going to talk to you. You have no clue who is going to disappoint you. You have no clue how prices will change. You have no clue about the escalation of fuel or all those things as well too. And if you understand, call your friends, share this link. They need it at this uncertain time. Please call your friends, your family, share the link. Tell them that they don't need to miss this car. I know some of them are watching Arsenal. Arsenal is winning and they have a red car, but it's okay. Let them stay here, because it will also give you that fleet of mind to be able to interpret and watch game without being affected. I want to say something very radical, what causes us to be in limited form, discouraged and disappointed, bitterness, worried and all that. You are dual in nature. You are dual. What is competing with you is dual nature. And we're about to harmonize and integrate them, because we're about to cast the illusion out of us so that we'll be able to embrace this. Significantly, you have two bodies. what we call your mental body or your material self. Your mental self or your material self. Write it down. Mental self and your material self. You can talk about it as your divine self or your personality. It's your divine self or your personality. So I can bridge it down so that people will understand that your mental self is different from your material self. We call it the matter self, matter of solidity, matter of form. And unfortunately, majority of us know one, which is the material self, which is the personality, and have not been able to deep in through self reflection, self recognition, to be able to deepen the one. How do I know? Greater is he that is in you than he that's in the world. So the world is a matter, which is a material self. I like an analogy where a particular lady who went through stress, the husband has passed on, and it was difficult at that moment that if your husband passed on, you're tied down into your family, so you're not moving there. You were expected to see that the brother from that home will marry you. There's a culture that way. But now the brother of that his brother-in-law also passed on, and it was only two brothers, and so both of them died. And the mother-in-law said, hey, you guys got to find out, I release you. That means the clause, I have released you because I can't get pregnant any longer and marry. Even if I marry now, will you wait for the child to come up? That's child abuse, isn't it? So one was looking at the material self, because anticipation of the uncertainty, like when you lose your job, it's more like that. The uncertainty, what worries you that how am I going to get another job? How am I going to get another job? That's the worry. That what brings worry and anticipation. But there were two of them. One has depended on his material self and looked at the conditions. The conditions was not promising, and so what does she need to do? She said she's going to go back. Another person was living. The sister friend was living in her mental self, and her mental self would create her material self. But most of the time, every time you are sad, the material self is influencing your mental self. Every time you're disappointed, your material self is in charge, is connected to the material world, the form, right? But the mental region is depleted. And that's why if you faint in the days of adversity, your strength is small. What is that strength? It means that you have so depleted and devalued. I mean, you can stop me to ask question. I will take it. If you put it on the chat comment, I will see your question. So now this person, we did not hear anything about her again, because she followed her material self and went back. And that's basically what material self does. It's either it takes us back, or it thinks about the future. It doesn't think about now. But the mental self is so preoccupied with now. It's called the now factor. It lives in the moment. It lives in the present. And that's where power is. That's the power of engagement. So there's no past. The past is only in your memory, in the narrative with which your mind is interacted to create fear because of what tomorrow will be. So in reality, if you are sad, if you check what saddened you, it is the material self that is connected to a limited world. Because in the matter world, in the matter self, it is limited, it is insufficient, it thrives on scarcity, it thrives on competition, it thrives on knowing. But your mental self is so powerful, it's so rich, It's such an enlarged place. It works from a place of infinite. I'm not just talking theory. You can see I'm not looking at anywhere. I'm pouring over me. It's something I wish I know, but I had already known. I will tell you stories again. There's a guy who his father had him as a young person, as almost like the last person. So the father loved him so well and made what they call a material sense of what we call the matter self. Created a color, beautified him. And so in that beauty, he was looking at the material world. And what the father had taught, that almost you are going to rule these people. But if you are going to rule these people, you are going to rule them from the place of material self. And it will crack you, because it won't give you the mental capacity to be able to diffuse and to interpret and to observe, because the material self is so consumed with feelings and emotion. But you see, your mental self is intellectual, it's wise, it's prudent, it's knowledgeable, it has light and enrichment, is endowed with such capacity to be able to influence your material world self. So this guy, and in walking in that dimension, you could see there's pride. That's why you talk about pride. There is no humility in the material world. That's why people say, I'm better than you. Oh, I've achieved, I've attained, I've possessed, and all that. So what happened? His mental self, in another frequency, through a divine interruption, interrupted that material positioning, which is position. That's why I see most people, when do not have position, they feel that they have not attained. They feel insecure. If they don't have a job, if they're not married, they feel they cannot have the capacity to do X, Y, Z. I'm not a mother. No, all those things are material form. So now this guy had an encounter through a deeper, what we call inclusive impression. It came as a dream, reinforcing him to give him a mental self. And in that mental self, it's so powerful. You can't lose yourself in your mental self. You cannot be compared, you cannot be devalued, you cannot be rejected. If you understand this method of living, you are on top. But it's difficult. I'm going to give you stories to buttress what I'm saying. So this guy, now, when that divine interruption created a picture, we call it the mental picture, because they withdraw from a resource of a mental picture, or which create a storyline, and it's that storyline that guides you in what you're doing. So now a story has been given to him in his material self. Now his mental self was intercepted and built a new person, a picture of him. If you don't have a solid picture in your mental part, you can't create a solid part in your life. Can I say it again? The solidity of your mental self will be able to determine and create a solid part that is unequivocally cannot be destroyed, because it's so influencing. So this guy now left, was rejected, was sold, and you see, when he was in uncertain moment, what was ruling him was not the material self. It was basically the mental self. He got to a place of destruction, a place of power, tussle, and he was tempted to be shifted out of his mental self into his material self. And there was an unresisted offer to him. He looked at his way he was going. Don't forget, the mental picture was guiding. That's what they call the higher guidance. Oh my God. That's what they call the higher guidance. We have what they call emotional guidance. We have what they call mental guidance. But people do not have access to this because they have not documented it in their region. It's difficult to tap into that resources. It's so powerful. So now this guy was super guided by the mental picture, so it was not going to be compromised. What compromises you is because the material self is connected to pain, and this pain want to drown you because you are now shifting your focus from your mental self to your material world. What kills us is material self. And that's why material self will die, but the mental self is so powerful. That's why you see a man can be in prison and you locked him in prison, or kidnappers will keep him over there, but yet he's unperturbed, he's unstained, because you're holding the body. He is not the body. The body is the encasement of his mental world, which take a form, but in his mind he can operate. He has freedom. So what occupy us? And your mental self is so light because it brings on. It has no hold. It has no form. It's like water because it's a spirit. It's divine. And so it cannot be contained. It cannot be limited. It cannot be frustrated. So every time you're frustrated, know that you have shifted into what? Into your material self, or what we call the matter self. And this is so powerful. And that's one of the things that the Lord Jesus Christ came back to remind us how powerful we are. Because now he said the enemy come. The enemy of your soul is what will take you always to focus on your material self, not on. So if a man is in prison, he's not limited by those walls. His mind is free. He's penning down stories. He's writing books. He's creating out of that. If a man is in misery, he has tapped into a lower self. That's why you see, when we talk about higher self and we talk about lower self, mean that your lower self is associated with your material self, which is your matter self. But higher self is your divine self, divine essence, which is on a higher pedestal, and it thrives on different attributes. I hope somebody's getting this. If you get this powerfully, you cannot be rejected by any institution or anybody. Nobody can hurt you. You're unhurtable. That's why I say, give unto us power to tread upon serpents and scorpions, and all the powers of the entire material world cannot diminish you because you are too far above. So there's this guy who was working with his master, and his master was on a higher pedestal, higher frequency, higher realm, was in a higher self, and was doing extraordinary thing. And what amazes me was this guy was with the master, and he could see the performance, he could see the joy, he could see the bliss, he could see the optimism, he could see the wellness, the wisdom, the beauty, the richness of the boss. But yet he was always in the material form. So there was a time a man visited them, and the master had them giving that guy a counsel or advice, maybe a business advice, and the guy succeeded. And he said, "Can I give you something?" He said, "No." And the guy said, "Oh, how can you say this guy? We have done him a favor." And he went out and picked those things. Material world. He attracted something from the material world. He didn't stay. Another thing happened again. When the material rejection or opposition came, and he was focusing on the opposition, and the opposition will overwhelm you because you are connected to your material self, and your material self is so weak, it's so gullible, it's so limited. And so the guy was afraid. He ran to the master and said, "Hey, can you not see that these people are here? The taxes people are here." And I said, "Don't worry, there's something I know." And he just prayed. I said, "I wish you can switch into your higher self, because in your lower self, in your lower estate, you cannot see beyond. It's like you're in the basement of a building. You cannot see high. But when you move outside the basement and move into the upper chamber, You find out you have a wider opportunity and view. That's basically how higher life and lower life is. So this guy's eyes were opened, and his eyes opened, and that's why most time people don't follow me. I'm telling you, because I bring in principles, strong principles that governs advancement, that governs higher creativity, governs abundance, that governs productivity, governs advancement, governs wellness, governs beauty, governs prosperity. It cannot be by assumption. It's by principle. I call it duty and principle. My responsibility and the principle. Life is run from principle. That's why it is an ordered life. It is not disordered. When we are in disordered state, it's because we are not in the flow of the order, and that's why confusion comes in. Every time you're confused, you're looking at your material self, not your bigger self. So I'm wrapping up. Please, if you have any question, do ask so that I can take it over there. How did we get into so conformed into our material self rather than into our spiritual self or our mental self? You see, when you were born, your brain was empty. Your essence knew where it was going. But to connect you into the material world, because you've not been here before, your brain needs to be taught by parents, by environment, by experiences. Now, when you were taught by your parent, they had a certain limited belief, and so now they are putting you in a comfort place. They are defending you. When they defend you, when you're outside defense, you will think that you're exposed. So you don't think about defense. When they protect you, when you're outside that protect place, now it's over there. What has happened is you become prejudiced because you are taking a more form in the material self rather than understanding that your liquidity, your present. I read something in the scripture. Sorry, I'm born again. I'm happy about it. I'm born again. So my experiences are come from there. It say that when you are born again, for instance, like you are renewed in the concept. Born again is just a transfer from your material self into your spiritual self. That's what born again is, because their thinking is different. It's quite different. Their belief system, you see things differently. So if you think that you're born again, say, what's he talking about? Born again is a rebirth, it's a transformation, it's evolution, it's a what's it called? A transit between your lower self into a higher self. That's what it is. Calling you from a lower place to a higher place, because in higher place creativity is dominant. It said, I give unto to dominate. That's our mandate, because that's who we are. So, because of the indoctrination of our mental world, it started creating stories, narrative, and it started having a hold. When I noticed this, it was so powerful, because you see, let me give you 6 things that keep you in your material world. Traps of expectation. You know why? Traps of expectation started when your mother left you, okay, and you were hungry, right? Your mother is not around. You start crying, and your mother delayed a bit to give you food, which is breakfast. You begin to anticipate. So in your mental world, that's not really that that you can endure. Start doing expectation, because now you depended on your mother to feed you, and at that moment it creates a sense of expectation. That's how our expectation started coming, right? Expectation. That's why we call it the expectation trap. If you notice, most of the expectations are external rather than internal. Expectation is in external rather than internal. Type of expectation. Then what happened? The second one is entitlement comes in. Have you noticed that when your mother is delayed, you start biting your mother because why are you delaying my food? That's how. So you now see that if you ask mother, there's a bite of the breast, the nipple. Why? It's that's where entitlement start coming. It conditions us over there, and those were devaluation, because now we are taking the form of material world because of expectation and entitlement. So what now happened is, have you noticed that when your mother cuddle you more, or you now stay in your family, you get close to your mother, you get close to your father, you get close to your siblings. Have you noticed when you leave your house, you are like unprotected? You have designed, your mind has designed into possession. That's possession. Like, oh, my brother, I possess my brother, I feel my father, I feel that. That's where possession. Oh my God, I wish I knew. This is so powerful, really. This is so powerful. That's my opinion. Now, so you see that possession, that's where we now have possession of ideas. Oh, you now have idea. This is my father, this is my brother, this is my mother, that's also a possession of food. That's why you see now, when a child is moving from breast meat in down to solid food, they don't like it. There's a cry. Why? There's a relation, because now you have possessed, which is called attachment. That's attachment. That's where attachment comes. And that attachment now, you now feel like, oh, I like the breast meat. To remove me from the breast meat, so now my brain has been documented into that attachment. For me to now move into solid food, there's a friction, there's a tension. You see how this thing started coming. Now the next one, because there was some level of protection, protection from you, from your mother, from your parent, you were so cared for. So anytime your mother is not around, there is a storm of fear around you, because now you have possessed, you have had that attachment with your parent. That's why I say people, when they leave their house and move to another house, they feel insecure, because now their house has given them a set of this. That's why I say people, when they have money and they do not have money again, or they lose a job, and you see the job has possessed, they have looked at it as a place of security, and once they are outside that realm of frequency, they now feel insecure. That's what we call the storm of fear. So don't forget, the first one is the trap of expectation. The second one is the entitlement. This one is possession of idea, which is then the other one is storm of fear. Then the next one is the load of desire. The load of desire. The greatest thing, every time you desire, it is your material self that is desiring. But your mental self is a creative self. Ye are God, the sons of the Most High God. And what does God do? He creates. Desire is it was because as a child you were on a consuming state. They didn't teach you that before you take the breast, you have to say thank you. That is your contribution. Because the way we are preloaded to give out. Again, I like trees. Let's look about mango tree. How many times have you plucked mango fruit, and you said the mango tree thank you? The mango tree is not interested in your thank you. It is designed to produce. It's more blessed to give than to receive. But what happened is that in littleness, which is in your material form, it is always taking, absorbing, which devalues it the higher self. You know, sometimes it's quite technical to talk about this. So it is more. Let's say to give. Desire is a function of lack and scarcity. That's why he said, but I'm desiring to go up. No, you don't desire to go up. You just go up. You are up. You are up to do up things. And this is the trick. Okay, when I have money to do XYZ, that's why you don't have the money. Because money is value. You are money. What you're meaning is that when I find if I express myself more, like I create value more, then value comes back to me. Because what you have is cash, tradable cash, but you are the value. So wanting and desiring is in our lower estate. When you get to a higher estate, you perform. That's why the Lord just said something very significant. I've not come to be served. I have come to serve. This is the ideology behind it. Then the next one is what they call the passion and prejudices. And passion is energy. If you have bad energy, you do bad things. If you have bad passion, that's why people who are wicked, they are following their passion. You now see that. You see, this is the problem. If you say I follow my passion, and my passion is to molest people, how does that aid humanity? If I'm a passion of liar, when I lie, why do people say I'm a liar? Because I'm following my passion. If I'm a cheat and I'm following my passion of to cheat people, is that principle? So we need to now consider this word, say follow your passion, because we need to be able to understand what is passion. Now, prejudices. So passion and prejudices. Prejudices means because of the way I have created a sense of how things should be. So now, how things should be, it means that I am rigid. I've already created a world, controlling the world to conform to my prejudices, my biases. Maybe next day I'm going to talk about the bias self and how bias, it is the foundation of all limitation and suffering. Okay, somebody said something. Flow is a mental construct. Does order and flow depends on individuality? Can one individual order and flow contradict the universal order? Yes. Thank you. Very beautiful question. We have universal laws. And when your personal laws contradict the universal law, you are not in harmony. So there's a tension. That's why there's always a confusion or contradiction or consequences. Like for instance, you can decide to be angry because you feel prejudiced that people should treat you right and they are not treating you right. You get angry. So you now start doing something outside the nature. Let me give an instance. We know that in our new life, we're not supposed to be overcome by evil. We should overcome evil by good. That's our new law. So that means if somebody hurts you, you're not supposed to hurt that person back. So now, if you have a law that said, do me, I do you. If you do me, I revenge you. Yes, you're now flowing from that order. But it contradicts the universal order that said, love your enemy, pray for them that persecute you. And that's the problem, because now your material self is justifying your pain in the transaction. But the universal law or the divine law say, you know what, don't reward evil for evil, but contrariwise good for evil. You see how people have an order, but that order is contradicting to universal thing, and they will get back what they sow. So it's important to understand universal law and your own law. There has to be in harmony. If somebody said, judge, the universal say, do not judge. As you judge, so you be judged. And people do not understand this. The true reason and logical, because your material self is logical, is reasoning, but your mental health is sensible, is sensitive to understand variations so that they can conform to those laws. And that's why the most important thing is obedience. If you follow me a lot, I always talk about order, purpose, meaning, connection, and gratitude. These are the flows, and they are all universally tied down. Suddenly, I'm going to talk about a few things as I'm closing. What I have found out in the order of life. So, if for instance, my order said, "Oh no man, nothing," right? And okay, no, there's a natural order that said, "Oh no man, nothing." And I said to myself, my order means I'm going to take advantage of people when I give them something, or when I borrow money or lend money from them, I will owe them. You see, you might think that you are following your order, but that order does not align to the divine order. So your order as a person must always be in harmony to the spiritual order in order to flow from the universal power, because life is about transient. Well, life is bigger than what we are doing. I just feel that we're in elementary school. It takes divine intelligence to come into divine life. If you don't come into divine life, trust me, you can't deal with uncertainty, because see, what we are seeing is akamo. It's really akamo, because it's going to get tougher. It's going to get tougher. If you see now, people have no honor. If you see now, people can't keep their word. If you see now, people, their love of many are waxing cold. If you see now, your brother can lead, you can train your brother, and your brother will never know anything about you again. It's already, because people are becoming more self-centered. Selfishness. That's why I said there's so much specialness and separation in the world, because personality is now governing our world rather than our mental self, which is divine self, which is essential self. So I hope I made sense of this person. Please let your friends come. This is amazing. Every time you suffer, it's your material world that is suffering. If you switch into your mental self, you'll find out that you have more power to dictate how you feel. External thing cannot condition how you feel. So now, what are you saying, Patrick? How do I deal with uncertainty? We're inviting you from a lower place. Stop seeking something outside. Dive into your richer self, into your more knowledgeable self, into your higher self. There's a higher you. See, wake up every day and say, can I know my higher self? And your higher self will show up. Because if you ignored your higher self, which is have a higher frequency, have a higher knowledge, which is the infinite, it drops in space, it's not having a form, it doesn't take form. That's why when people think are pursuing attainment, you are pursuing dead things. When if you say, if I get this car, I'll blow. You blow means that you are dead. That's what it is. Or if I get a job, now you've got a job, you're looking for transportation to go to that job before they pay you. But I thought you said when you get a job, everything is fine. You now get money. All your cousins and everybody in the village is your brother now and sister. But when you are in your obscurity, nobody remembers you. So you see, you're now saying, if I have money, then there are multiple problems. Oh, if I have this child, if I just marry and have a child, now if only the child, you get a child. And the cost of maintaining the child is also killing you. You see how these things are multiplied. It's so powerful, but it seems like as an elementary thing, but these are divine knowledge we need to tap. So please, if you are in this place, seek your higher self. Every great man that you see, don't joke with your life. You see all these people that will talk about great people who has this small Elon Musk or Dangote, them, go and check them. They are operating from a higher place. That's why they're unafraid. That's why they are bold. That's why they are beautiful. That's why they have a balanced life. I'm going to talk about what they call the equal-mindedness, and that's where it rests. It's a secret of prosperity, wellness, and over there. So we are saying it's time for us to come into our higher self, because our higher self ruling us, dictating us, directing us, guiding us, will always guide us. That's why you hear a word that says, when you walk to the left and walk to the right, you will hear a voice, because your higher self have a higher voice. Kai, if I was in church, I would speak in tongues now, because this is deeper revelation. Anyway, so what it means, transport yourself. Are you not tired of living in sorrow, in limitation, in fear, in bitterness, in worry, in anticipation? Come, we are bigger than that. I believe we're bigger than that. This same person that can conceive a goosey soup and make something out of a goosey soup, do you know what it means to con this thing? Those are intelligent. Do you ever think about how do people start cooking beans? How do people start making, you watch people, they are inventing a whole lot about food. That's how powerful our mind is, creative mind. Come to a higher place. See, listen, if you're in this call, that's why we say we're leading ourselves into a better place. There's a better place to go. And that's why it's even in your mind that there's a better place, there's a better you. So 5 things we're going to talk about today that will take you into your higher self. Number 1, knowledge. Knowledge is ability to know who you are. I've been saying that if you don't come into your nature, stop using that word, follow after your passion. No, follow after your nature, because nature nurtures. Nature is determining the energy to which you drive. So you can't say, I want to be rich. No, I am rich to make material self rich. But if you say I want, that means you're already denying yourself the power, so you do not know. And that's why the Bible says that every good gift and perfect gift come from above. You see, come from above, right? Now, your above self, we pray the prayer, let your will be done on the material world as it is in the mental world. Hey! Woo! As it is in heaven, so is in earth. So it's first of all in the higher realm that dictates in the lower realm. So if you are lower realm, is a pool, is a reversal pool. As it, just think about that word, as it is heaven, so it should be on the earth realm. So it means that every time you suffer, you are connected to a lower place, because lower place is insufficient, is insignificant, is scarcity based, is trouble based. But your higher self, see no door, and you just look at, you look at people wondering, how are people creating a lofty ideas that are ruling the world? They're in a higher place. They have tuned in. That's your spirit world. Then so knowledge, know yourself, come into your originality, your authentic self. Come into that higher self. That's knowledge. Number 2, it's called rest. What did I say? Rest. Confusion is a reflection of the mental clutter. Every time you go to a house, if you go to a house that is not peaceful, the mental world self is unpeaceful. It will reflect. If the mental world is not coordinated in other fashion, it begins to procrastinate. You say, I don't know why I'm procrastinating. Let me explain to you. That's why Paul said something. He said, the things I want to do, I find myself another body doing it. What is it? That means he was tilting more into his lower self rather than into his higher self. So the higher self will connect to the material world and act after it. It's called rest. And I pick up scriptures. It's not, there's a course called the slowdown concept in Harvard and all that. So they are talking about rest. Let me tell you, do a practice. When you are in a hurry to make Indomie, right? All you're thinking about consumption because you're tired. But when you're relaxed and do that same Indomie, the effect different because your creativity, your uniqueness, yourself is involved. So knowledge of who you are. The second one is relaxation. You calm down. Calming down, sometimes when you're too much in a hurry, take 1 second, pause. The day the divine guidance show me about how to modify and connect into a higher self. He said, practice silence, stillness, smile. Every time you are in confusion, smile. Connect you to originality, because originality is bliss, is beautiful, is wonder. But when you're not smiling and frowning, you are looking at your material world, which is dirty and limited. I can tell you about this. It was a story that was said about some certain of people who were disordered. And in that disorder, they connected to snake, and snake was biting them. Now they were looking down, and as they were looking down in the base, so they were still connected to their material world. Now there was a shift in their focus. They say, take this snake and put it in a brazen snake and take it off. Just look over, and it will go. They couldn't do it because you know why? They were in a confused state. Their personality was overriding their essence. We have dwelt so much in this tabernacle of self, and it's a load that we can offload completely. And when we offload it, we begin to attend to a higher ground, and you cannot advance, or you will continue to struggle, because when there's a struggle, there is no rest. That's why I said, when you stop struggling, you enter into his rest. It is in rest that things are produced. So number one, know yourself, come into your rest. And now the third one is contentment. If you are going to deal with uncertainty, be comfortable with what you have. A woman was trapped, was in a certain stage of lack. As it was in that certain stage of lack, you know what happened? He started seeking for more, and he thought more was outside. Meanwhile, more was inside. He went to an expert who said, okay. He said, but in all these things, please, can you tell me what you have? He said, I have a pot of oil. He said, go back inside, arrange this pot of oil, expand it, become an expertise over there, put a system and structure around it, make it valuable, exchange it. Oh my God. So it is you, not outside. When you look inside of you, you are contentment. We do not like ourselves. Hi. Love yourself. Hunger is part of it. The day the world will recognize me with this thing I'm teaching, you people start calling your friends. But I'm just saying, I'm just cracking a joke. Don't take this as simple. So you talk about knowledge, knowing yourself. We talk about rest and contentment. Now the next one is trust. We don't trust. We don't even trust who we are. You don't trust that you have capability to unturn every situation. You got to trust yourself. We're rounding up. Trust is powerful. I have dealt with what I call the STSSSC, and not for today. Please, I want to teach. Bring me to your platform. Bring me to people. We need to evacuate people from a lower place to a higher place. Is enough suffering here. So trust. And finally, gratitude. Let me tell you about gratitude. Gratitude is a language of higher self. Gratitude is a language, is a mode. In fact, you see, there was a day I was in my elementary world because there was so much infusion of the material energy around me. So I went upstairs to be sad, because when you are sad, you have connected to external thing. It's the external thing that make you sad. When you look inside, you will see that you have the power. Gratitude. What is gratitude? Three things. Is acceptance. The key word when you go to supermarket, don't be prejudiced. When you see a shift in prices, say, I had the capacity to do more, to buy more. That's acceptance. What killed us is that rejection, not my portion. It devalues you completely. Accept it. That's what. Become one with uncertainty. Become one with uncertainty. That's appreciation, acceptance. Then, what is acceptance? Abundant mind. Abundance. That's why I say the enemy comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. What is to shift you to lack and scarcity, so that you become wanting, you become desire, devaluing yourself, and bring you to a material world rather than to mental world. I'm rounding up. So it is acceptance, abundance, and appreciation. It is in the appreciation mood that you advance. Depreciation is what load you, limit you, encap you, enslave you, put a cap upon you into your smaller self. But we're asking you, through the mechanism of acceptance, through the mechanism of abundance, through the mechanism of appreciation, what happens if you continue to appreciate, dancing yourself and flowing yourself into such a magnificent place? It's time for us to come unlock. That's what real born again is. Leaving your elementary self and going into a higher self. Does anybody have a question? It's the most wonderful. I'm super excited about this topic. How to be friendly with uncertainty, with a fleeting of mind, moving myself from a lower self to a higher self. I welcome you to lead yourself, and it's you, nobody, not your pastor, not your brother, that's why I talk about true self-examination and reflection, an inner dive into your inner self to cultivate the knowledge, the rest, the contentment, the trust, and the gratitude mentality, so that you can transfer back into your higher self.